Hey, what up, fam? It's Joe Mill here, back with Killer Miller Q. Today, we getting a little special cook going for the old St. Patrick's Day. We're gonna be doing our first time rendition of some smoked pastrami. Hold tight, Lone Star's fired up, but we got a lot of work to do. The music. We looking at 13.82 pounds of USDA prime brisket right here. Decent price on it, more or less what I can usually find these days. You can see some good marbling in there. So I'm expecting this should be a good one. It's going to be a first timer. We're going to be putting together this pastrami. This is going to be a process, so stick with me. First things first, we're going to trim this thing down. And there it is. Pretty much I took off quite a bit before I can get it down to the shape that I wanted to, really rounding off these edges. And I had a nice little mohawk flap on the back, and there was some gouges in it, so I was trying to clean some of that up. The other thing for me, I would much rather take the meat away, especially off of these edges where it's not going to cook correctly. A couple little holes you can see in there where it's not going to cook correctly, versus leaving it on there, and then at the end of the day I'm going to have more than enough meat. This is got some good marbling throughout it that I was able to see along the way as I've been kind of cutting. So this should be pretty good. This is going to be more than enough meat. But I also got me a nice little bit of scrap bags to throw to the side that I'll be able to grind up later for burgers or, you know, brisket chili, something like that. And then as always, we always add into the old tallow stack. So here we are the next day after, got that brisket trim knocked out, and now it is time for us to put together this brine that we're going to be soaking this brisket in to start the process of turning this thing pickled or whatever have you, and getting our pastrami together. So whenever I'm looking for how am I going to come up with my recipes or what am I going to use, there are a multitude of different cooks that I like to look at. Usually I'll look at multiple different recipes and then kind of get an idea or a theme of what is traditional, what I like based off of their results, and then kind of master that together to come up with my Killer Miller Q recipe. One of the people I always look at, as I've told you before, is CJ over there with Mama and Papa Joe's. We're going to be using his recipe today on his pastrami. Usually I can trust his palate, and if anything, you always know, go to somebody that can cook better than you when you want to actually find out how to do something you've never done before. It sounds like he had some pretty good results when he did his pastrami, so we're going to be using the same thing. We won't have to take away too much salt, and I really like that idea. So kind of running through as you're looking at what we got here. We got about a half a cup of curing salt or Prague powder, you might see. You got about a half a cup of kosher salt that's going to be in here. We got 2 tablespoons of this pickling spice. You can use whatever kind you want. You got about 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. I got about 5 crushed garlic cloves. And then from there, we got about a medium to large brown onion that I've kind of roughly chopped up. These are going to be the things that's going to come together. And I got me a nice little Tupperware here that I'll be able to slip this brisket into, and that's what we're going to be brining in. I'm going to actually be using a method that I saw from Cat's Delicatessen over in New York. Supposedly they got some of the best pastrami sandwiches, so we're going to mix and match a little bit to come up with our Killer Miller Q recipe. Let's slide over to the old stove. Got us a big saucepan right here over the stove. I already turned that on to medium warm heat. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to activate a few of these ingredients before we put them together, and we do need that water to be warm anyway to kind of mix in with that sugar and salt and everything and kind of get that solution to come together. So what we're basically going to be doing is we're throwing in the pickling mix. What is it? Yeah, the pickling spice. We're going to be throwing in the garlic bulbs or cloves. You see I pretty much have already kind of crushed them, took off the outside skin and got them ready to go, along with our onion. And we're not going to cook this very long. We're just going to kind of let this sweat out, let it start getting fragrant. Get my wooden spoon in here, move this around. I'll show you what it looks like when it gets soft. Literally, we talking about a couple minutes. We'll add the water in, we'll add in the rest of our ingredients. And this is 2-3 minutes later. Now I want to saute them, so you see they starting to get soft. We get to roast some of those, some of that pickling spice, man, and you can really start to smell this garlic, all this onion, juniper berry, and everything coming together. Coriander, man, this is a holiday already. So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna take the gallon of water that we're gonna be adding in later, break that in half. So I want a half a gallon of water to go in here, and we're gonna start in with the rest of our ingredients. There is our half gallon of water. And I went ahead and took my heat and turned it all the way down to low now, because we're not trying to boil anything. We don't want this water to be too hot. This surface is going to be hot, so this water should start warming up pretty quick. But basically, all we want to do is get this warming up, and we start adding in the rest of this salt and this sugar. We can get everything dissolved in, and then ultimately, before we actually add our brisket in here, we want to make sure we're going to add the other half of a gallon of water in here, and any ice or anything like that, or sit it in the fridge, let it get completely cold, because we don't want to be cooking that brisket while it's sitting here in this brine. And you can just see, to give you an idea, look at the way that my water has changed colors. That was just from that little bit of the cook-off and the sweating of some of these ingredients. The smell is amazing, but already I know this water is way more infused with flavor to start off than it would have been if I'd have just put all of this stuff in here and then waited for it to give off its own flavor. So I just like that idea, so that was one reason why I wanted to incorporate that step. But let's get some of this Prague powder in next. That pink curing salt, the Prague powder, is what helps your meat from spoiling during this curing process. We're going to be going for about 6 to 7 days, so you want to make sure that you got that in there. We got some salt that we got to add in there, right? This will be all the salt that's going in today's recipe at that half a cup. So we're pretty much going to be able to not have to worry about rinsing off later. That'll be ready to go when it comes out of here. And then finally, let's sweeten things up with a good amount of this, 3/4 cup of this brown sugar. I'm gonna stir all of this up, and we'll make sure everything is gone before we add in the rest. There we go. That didn't look too bad, didn't take too long. Let's go ahead and move over to a bowl that I'm gonna be brining in. I already got my gallon or half a gallon of water sitting in there. Let's mix them together. We ready to rock now. There is that pretty looking brisket. We did a decent trim. If I was gonna use CJ recipe, I at least need to try to do something close to CJ's trim. Decent trim over here on that brisket. It's been sitting in the fridge. You see I threw a little saran wrap on it so it doesn't get too much oxygen on it. This is already cooled off as I mixed it with that other cold water. So I actually like that process also, because it allows you to kind of heat everything up, mix it together well, but you don't really have so much of all this hot water that then you got to turn around and try to cool off just to kind of get the meat in there. So I'm going to start this baby off like you see it here. Meat side down in the solution. We want to try to make sure it gets totally submerged. If I need to, we'll throw a couple little cups or something like that on top. Okay, last looks before you go say night-night. Okay, we in there. It was close. We barely maybe touching a little bit on the edges, but I think we'll be fine. We'll be flipping this roughly every day from one side to the next. But I got my bowls on top. Let's wrap this thing up, and it's going to chill out in the fridge. So here we are a few days in. I spare you the daily flippage, but you can see those bowls doing their job, holding this meat down. We're going to go ahead and get them out, and we're just going to get this baby a nice little flip over. Starting to get a little darker color, so it's definitely starting to take in a little bit more of that moisture and solution. But this is about to be fire. And here's a quick peek at the other side. So just kind of getting it back down in there. I'm about to resubmerge it. Also take a quick second, give it a swish around there at the bottom. Make sure none of that stuff settled. But other than that, that's all we doing. I'll see you back here day 6, day 7. 6 going on 7 days, and it's time to break the silence. All right, so while my fire is coming up, we don't got much to do with this. Since the solution wasn't too salty, pretty much all I'm about to be doing is making sure none of these onions or any of the other spices are on there, patting it dry, and I'm going to start letting it come up to temp. And the next thing we need to do is we're going to go ahead and put together the rub that's going on top. All right, grabbing it out the water. First off, this thing is nice and cold. We need to get all these bits off like I just said, but you can kind of see the a little bit of the color changes. It's kind of definitely accepted a lot of this brine that we've been sitting in, but let's get it cleaned off. All right, I pretty much got everything I need together to make this rub. I got some granulated garlic, about a tablespoon and a half of that, about a quarter cup of some coarse black pepper, and then I need another tablespoon and a half of some of this coriander seed. I went with the seeds instead of the powder so I can get a little bit better bark. We're gonna crush a little bit of this down real quick, try to leave it nice and thick, but give me 1 sec. That's pretty much what you end up looking like. Smells great, but we'll get me a tablespoon and a half of that, and then we'll mix it up. Okay, we got that all crushed up. You can go as fine as you like, but I wanted to keep a little bit of that crustiness in there just to kind of give me a nice bark, so that should mix in good. Like I said, that really has a good smell to it, but I'm going to go ahead and funnel all of that into this little empty shaker I got, an old container, and we'll mix this up, and let's cover this brisket. So we got this thing all ready to go. Got my rub here. We're going to go ahead and dust this thing over the top. I'm going this fat side down in the smoker, so I'm going to knock out the fat side first, flip it over, hit the meat side. This can hang up while I'm waiting to get the grill all the way at the temp. So that's good on this side. Pat it in a little bit, and let's flip it over and do the same thing on the other. All settled. I can definitely tell some of my garlic settled more towards the bottom, but at the end of the day, we're looking pretty good. Plenty of pepper on there. I might add a little, but I like where I'm at. So it's about 9:30 over here on a Saturday night. We're smoking along with some, some pecan wood. I just had this baby open, but it's roughly at about 250, maybe a little bit over. It'll drop down now that we got this big boy piece of meat up in here. And you can check this thing out one time. This will be the brisket of the future, the pastrami of the future. We're going to let this thing hang out. I got it up top as I like to cook up there when I can. The point is towards the fire, so it can take the brunt of that heat and everything, but we'll come and check it out. This top side right up here, you can start to see, usually in the beginning, where the strains of the meat go, so you know which way to cut. I'm going to be cutting from that thick corner right there, and we'll be slicing up and coming on in. But there'll be nothing to see for a while, so I'll bring you back in a few hours, and we'll kind of go at it from there. Night-night, baby. 5.5 hours we've been rocking along. I've been doing nothing but switching the wood. This is my first time peeking in here on this thing. It's looking pretty nice and moisture. You can see all of that stuff pushing out, because normally I would assume 5 hours in I would look a little more dry. It's looking pretty good. Still starting to bark up. Everything's moving along. Nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Let's close it back up. We're gonna finish up adding some wood. I'll bring y'all back later. Woo, top of the morning to you here. It is 9 hours and 30 minutes in. This thing has been rocking along. Minor peaks. Oh yes. I have not really peeked in here many times. Literally, I've been throwing some wood in and running back over there to give myself 30, 45 minutes of sleep. As you can see, I'm barking up nice. I want to get an idea of what I'm looking at on my temps now. 89, 90. It's about what I was kind of expecting. My guesstimation was that this was going to end up taking me, point side looking a little more done, around 10 hours. Definitely a little firm back there. It's working its way there. That's for sure. Notice that I always get readings in a lot of different spots. You know, at the end of the day, this thing's got to be tender all over before we actually pull it up off of here. Now, I know this isn't going to probably be as firm as normal, just because or it will be a little bit more firm, than normal, because this thing has been sat over there and brined a little bit more, but we're getting close to where we want to be. At the end of the day, I still want to get it to about 205. I think the next time we check this thing out, it'll probably be about where I want it to be. Until then, we're going to let it keep rocking. So we're about 7 hours, 30 minutes in. Or I'm sorry, excuse me. It's about 7:30. It's just about 10 hours right here. I'm thinking I'm about done. I did give us a little bit of a rotation the last time that we was in here. Keep in mind, we didn't do no spritz. Ooh, that's nice and tender. No spritz or nothing as we went along throughout this cook. It pretty much just went directly in. Now, I definitely could have wrapped and sped this thing up a little bit. Make sure you save some moisture or whatever have you. I'm not too worried. I did want to get a nice bark. Still pretty tough in there. We're getting close. So since we're not there, what I think I'm about to do is give it a little bit of a wrap up right now to let it finish up, and it'll be already ready when I go to hold it. So I'm going, now that I got this bark nice and solidified, as you can see, I'm going with butcher paper. I won't usually I'll kind of cover it up with tallow. Being that this is pastrami, I don't want to go too heavy on that. I don't want it too oily, but I will give it a little bit just so it's got a little moisture. We'll get it back in here for a little bit longer. Hey team, I want to jump in here real quick and let you know, thanks for following along on today's cook. If you're new to the channel, go to the bottom right corner, make sure you subscribe, check out any videos you've missed, and if you haven't done it already, find me on all my social sites, Facebook, IG, and TikTok. Okay, got it over here to my aluminum foil, a little bit of tallow at the bottom. Tad a little bit of tallow on top. Now you can see what we're working with a little bit better. Let's wrap this baby up. Give me another 8 to 10 degrees, and then we'll let this thing hold for a bit. All right, we got our care package together. Like I said, I really do like using that crisscross method when it comes to wrapping. It's just a little bit more of a solid wrap. We're gonna slide right back over here. I'm gonna keep this flat side more or less right there towards the heat, and we're gonna let this thing go for a little bit longer and hang out. And I tell you what, the little bits that I was able to taste off my spatula, you would swear up and down that I got some salt on here, but maybe it's just the flavor of that garlic and that black pepper. But I am excited, and I'm looking forward to my sandwich a little bit later. Popping back in here, you can hear the birds chirping. I've been in a couple times and you didn't got to miss out. As you can see, I already got me a hole there. We had 11.5 hours. Still was waiting on, there we go. That feels the tender I'm looking for. Time to get this baby out. I have been waiting on my flat to get tender where I needed it to be. And that's gonna do it. So what I'm about to do is bring this out. I'm gonna open it up so I can stop this cook. And then I'm over there firing up my Green Mountain. I put that on about 150-ish, and I let it hang out and kind of rest in there. In the house, let's get a peek. Get you all opened up. Man, it smells good. Whoo. There we go. There we go. All right, you're going to chill out open for a second, and then we're going to go let this thing hold. And so after leaving that thing wide open for about close to about a half an hour, we back out here at the old Green Mountain. I got this thing dialed in at 150. We're just going to let this kind of hang out here. It's only, about 9 o'clock in the morning over here, so I got plenty of time before it's time for me to jump into this sandwich, but I am glad that I got it going early so I don't got to worry about it later on. And plus, let's go put together this dressing. All right, so we back inside, and while we're letting that brisket kind of hang out and hold there in the old pellet grill, we're going to put together a little Russian dressing to go on top of this sandwich. So pretty much what you are looking at here, in no particular order, is about 3/4 cup of mayo. I got about, you can go as hot as you like depending on your palate. I went with 2 tablespoons of chili sauce. That's that garlic chili sauce. A couple tablespoons of sour cream. A couple teaspoons of fresh parsley. You got about a 1 tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon of I wanted to go with a sweeter onion, or you can find your Spanish onion, that's good, but that's just basically a sweet yellow onion. Same thing, a tablespoon and a teaspoon of a dill pickle, more or less chopped up or minced. What I did was I had some dill pickle spears. I took one of those out, removed most of the seeds as I was going along, and then chopped that up and minced it up pretty well. You got a 1/2 teaspoon of some fresh lemon juice, along with a 1/2 teaspoon of a little bit of some horseradish, grated horseradish. Last thing you got, 1/4 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, or however you like to pronounce it. We're gonna mix all of those ingredients right here in this bowl, and then we'll put it back in the refrigerator and let it hang out together. And let me tell you, this came together to be a nice little sauce, slight little bit of kick, nice little thickness to it. Whole lot of flavor, man. Them pickles, that fresh lemon in there with that parsley. This is definitely gonna scream through on all that good meat. Can't wait. But let's put this in the fridge, put the top back over it. We done with that. It's a beautiful day out here. Been looking forward to my sandwich. This thing has been resting out here for a little over 3 hours. Just a mental note to self, man. You making brisket, it is never a bad thing to start early. I'm so happy I got that done, and I'm gonna start doing that more often. Usually I'm trying to time things up perfectly. It's much better, especially now that I done played around, did those hot holds, and I can hold that thing forever. So it's much better to get that thing done while I'm awake, while I get most of my time, get more of my sleep, and then that way, once I'm ready, I don't got to be rushing at the last minute. It's just going to be how long do I want to let it sit. So anyway, I don't want it to be a hot sandwich necessarily. Obviously, it's only down to 150, but it'll hold it to the point where it's really ready to go right to your plate and eat and serve. So what I'm about to be doing is I'm going to be coming out of there, pulling out one of my Christmas gifts, man, from Drip Easy, the same thing I got my barbecue tub from. Basically, this is going to be a barbecue blanket that they have, where you're basically able to, as you can see right there, slip your meat in there, and it's insulated. Kind of like what they bring your DoorDash in or whatever. You might see at some competitions, but it'll be able to kind of hold my meat in that temperature. I'm still a couple hours out, from at least 2 to 3 hours out before I'm ready to actually make this sandwich. But I don't want to necessarily have it too hot, so maybe you can start staying warm in there or keep the hold, but I'll let it start coming down. Let me remove it from the heat. So let me do that. You'll see what it looks like in a sec. And there we go. I can tell you one thing, this thing is plenty big. I mean, it ate this brisket up with plenty of room to go. I mean, I could have got anything in here. I could have got a couple briskets probably almost in here. So it's definitely got some good size, a good feel and quality and everything. But shouts out to my wife and my little baby for getting me this for Christmas. We're going to let this hang out right here until it's time to slice. Thing has been resting out, chilling right here. I can still feel a little bit of warmth coming through on this Drip Easy insulated bag, but it's been almost about 5 hours, and it's about time to make that sandwich, so we're gonna get this thing up out of here. There's your close-up. Had great jiggle at the end of the day. This is looking good. I'm gonna get a slice right down the middle. I remember I'm supposed to be working from this corner on through, but we're gonna see what we can do. All right, we got the cut, and I can see so far it looked like we penetrated. Woohoo! Check out that pastrami. And I can tell I got a very good job on the render. I can actually pick this baby up. Nice and good. I'm not going to squeeze my juice up out of there. You know, this is a little firmer with actually being the fact that you've brined it, but you can see it glistening. Oh, I'm excited now. I'm gonna start. Let me check out the flat area. Oh yeah, that ain't a beautiful looking flat. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna start here at this corner, real thin on these slices, and we're gonna kind of cut some of that away. We did some damage over here. Got me some trimming in. As you can see, we deeply penetrated with that brine. I only went for 6 days. Nice and tender on this bend test here. And as you can see, one hand on the pull apart, okay? We can't be mad at this at all. Beautiful looking texture. Great looking bark. You do get some of those a little bit, you know, and I knew I had some like smaller ends towards the end that's a little bit got more crispy. But I tell you what, these little caramelized bits right here are part of my favorite. That's so good. Look at that rendered fat. This was a fat side down cook, which is normally how I like doing it. I know I've been trying the fat side up. Went with my traditional. But overall, we're about to dig into this, and I'm about to give me a taste of this and put the sandwich together. Woo. That's still good brisket, baby. Definitely got a different taste. A little different texture, but super tender. Nice and juicy, as you can see from the cutting board, my glove, and the meat itself. But super flavorful. And just like CJ said, perfect on that salt. You didn't need none more than what was already set in there. I'll finish my piece. Let me get some to wifey. Let's put together the sandwich. Man, that is tasty. But to assemble this sandwich, I'm going to be doing a variation for myself because I really don't think that I like sauerkraut or rye bread. And then for wifey, I did grab some of the marble rye bread and we did get some sauerkraut, so I get a chance to try it on both. So this is what I'm thinking about what I'm going to do. Basically, I got some sourdough bread there for myself, some nice premium bread. Started off with a little bit of butter in this pan. I'm going to go ahead and slap down a layer of that Russian sauce that we put together, that dressing. On all of these. I'll come next with a nice slice of Swiss cheese, followed by a gang of some of that pastrami right over there. And then after that, I will top it off with some white onions that I mandolayed for myself. Wifey want a little white onions, a little bit of the sauerkraut. The top bun will have the exact same thing. A little bit of the sauce, along with a little bit of the cheese. We'll sit them in there open face in the stove for a second to warm up, and then we'll find out what we got. There it is. It's my restaurant style. It's the Killer Miller Q pastrami sandwich for the holiday. We'll see. Like I said, basically you got my sourdough roll. We got a little bit of butter down in this pan. We got our Russian sauce that we put together earlier. A little bit of Swiss cheese. A whole lot of that good old, I was about to say corned beef. Good lot of that good old pastrami. That beautiful color. Got me some nice thin sliced white onions from the mandolin. And then wifey's got it the same exact thing. Only difference is you got the rye bread down there with a little sauerkraut on top. We're going to throw this in the oven. Let it get a little toasted, a little warm. And we'll see what we got here. I got more than enough toast on. I could have got them a little browner, but I didn't want to necessarily get that sourdough, to tear up the top of your roof. Just wanted to get a nice warm little sandwich, get everything warm, get that cheese melted. It is time to split these down the middle and see what we got. Smells amazing. That brisket meat or that pastrami is definitely amazing. Split down the middle. Here's a peek at wifey's sandwich. I tell you what, I always thought that traditional looks pretty. I will get a chance to taste it. Who knows? Maybe my taste buds have changed, but I don't think that's for me. But I think that looks great. This one here, I feel like I could have cut one more time and made this into fours. This sandwich is huge. This is what we will be rocking with today. Plenty of that pastrami meat on there. I'm not waiting no more time, man. I've been tasting this Russian dressing right off my hands. We going right in on this.
Oh man, I can't talk.
That's a big bite. But that's amazing. That meat rings through. That cheese gets out the way. And that dressing bring it on home. I had to get a little something to wash that down. That's a thick, beautiful sandwich. Let's get us a little Guinness here. Hey, my taste buds changed on that. I didn't used to really care for that too much. It's pretty smooth these days. I'm going to take one bite of the lady sandwich. Hopefully she ain't going to be too mad. She ain't going to eat all this, no way. Let me find out if I like any of this stuff. It's good. I am happy to say that we got that thing done. About 11 and a half hours on that cook. We had a 13-pound brisket when we first began. I cut off quite a bit, only because it was real thin on one end. I was trying to get to a little bit of the thicker area, but no worries, because I like to have that put to the side for the burgers, for the grind, like I always tell you. And at the end of the day, it always cooks up better when you do a better trim on it. Overall, couldn't be happier, man. That was absolutely perfect. First time tasting pastrami, first time having my own Reuben. The Lone Star did his thing like always, put some good clean smoke on there. Big shouts out to my guy CJ over there at Mama and Papa Joe's. Recipe was perfect. Obviously we made some additions to it, did it Killer Miller Q style, but at the end of the day, as far as that brine and the rub that I put on there, that was pretty much straight from him, along with a couple things he told me to change up. But absolutely perfect. The salt was nice. Wasn't too salty at all. Really had a good flavor and everything. I was happy that everything rendered out the way it did. One thing that I make sure that I'm gonna do from now on for myself, and definitely a tip to throw out there to you, start cooking early. Especially when you're talking about doing a big cook like that brisket, pork butt, something that's gonna really take a long time. At the end of the day, initially I kind of usually would time it up to try to be right when I wanted to eat. It never usually ends up working out that way, especially when you throw in stalls and stuff like that. I went ahead and did it early, did it the night before, was able to get it done, give myself a little bit of sleep. And at the end of the day, since I did that initial test with doing the hot hold, now that I know that, I can hold that thing as long as I want and have it ready when I want to have it ready. But it sure is nice to have that out the way and not have to worry. So that was a good thing. Overall, looking at them sandwiches, once we got that together, the star of the show, outside of the brisket obviously, was that Russian dressing. Really like that. That was a solid recipe. I like those dill pickles that went in there. It gave it a nice little bit of kick, a little bit of flavor. I was kind of
nervous at first, only because normally I don't do the horseradish, just like I really don't do the sauerkraut. However, it mixed right on in there. It wasn't anything too abrasive. Had a good little bit of kick. Really brought a whole lot to that sandwich. So, getting a chance to taste both of them. For myself, I did like the sandwich that I made. The changes I did, as you've already seen, was I went to sourdough, added a little bit of thin white onions on there, and no sauerkraut or anything like that. Other than that, it was pretty traditional, Russian dressing along with the Swiss cheese. But I did get to taste wifey's sandwich. It was absolutely beautiful. I mean, whenever I see those sandwiches, it definitely looks like something I would like. Unfortunately, I do not like the rye bread, even though I love the way it looks. But tasting their sandwich, it was pretty good. I mean, I put the sauerkraut on there and everything. I was surprised that I thought sauerkraut would be something that I really didn't like. Truthfully, it was the bread more than anything. I really didn't taste too much of the sauerkraut. I did take the time to squeeze a little bit of that juice out of it, so it wasn't like all wet on the sandwich. But overall, it was exactly the way I wanted it to be. Some people like toasting their bread a little more, especially with that sourdough. I didn't want to end up to the point where I get that scratchy top of my mouth and everything. So I wanted the light toast, got a little bit of butter on there. If there was anything that I would change, it wouldn't be on the sandwich. I mean, at the end of the day, it was all perfect. I liked the way everything came out. It was the sandwich that I was looking for. Another one down. St. Patrick's Day cook is in. Shouts out to the family. All my people over there at Black Smoke Barbecue and anybody I miss, I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna throw CJ's video in here so you can check out some of his stuff. But if you haven't done it already, make sure that you subscribe to his channel. Always gonna get some good cooks there. We're gonna end this thing just like this with this Guinness. Cilantro. Ah.